I'm back. I wanted to share with you a piece that I've been writing recently for this new opera called My Darling Lucy. This opera I've been working on is about the love between a mother and a daughter, where the mother has to choose to take on this daughter that just floats up to her house in a boat. She's not sure if she should take it back or if she should keep it and raise her as her own daughter. So in this area, it's a very intimate love song between a mother and a daughter. It's called My Daughter Lucy. Let me play it for you for a moment. So the text to this song is written pretty simply. It's, My darling Lucy, forgive me for needing you, keeping you, letting you go. It's going to be part of a suicide note for her daughter when she finds out that her mother had kind of stolen her away from her real mother. So it's a very beautiful, intimate note with only a few words. And so for the music, what I wanted to do was paint that picture. So in the left hand, what I've done is I've created all of the chords right in the middle of the piano, and they're all really truncated. So all of the intervals are very small intervals of seconds and thirds, and occasionally we get an interval of a fourth or a fifth, but they're few and far between. So the start of it is just this opening minor third. Now, the minor third for me has always been really sad. It's very somber. Oftentimes, when you want to write something that's like a suicide note, you'll want to use something that's a sadder emotion. So I'll go for the minor third. I think it captures the elements really nicely. Now, I have expanded the text a little bit with some repetition. So I've used My Darling Lucy, My Darling Lucy. I say that twice, and then a third time, My Darling Lucy, My Darling Lucy, and Lucy is drawn out that fourth time, and that completes the A section. And this really is just kind of an A, B, with an intro and an outro. It's a pretty simple song. The B section starts with forgive me for needing you, forgive me for keeping you, and that's repeated. And then the ending, the outro, is forgive me for letting you go. So it's a really simple song and a really simple structure to show that as well. So opening here, we've got a simple harmony of a minor third that falls to a major third mixed with a minor second. So we've got a little bit of the happiness and a little bit of that close voicing in the minor second to bring it a tinge of sadness to it. And then the melody comes in to complete the triad, which is starting in B minor. I've got the fifth of a B minor that is starting on up to the tonic. My darling Lucy, my darling Lucy, Lucy. And then it repeats here a little louder now. My darling Lucy, my darling Lucy, Lucy. Here's the B section. Forgive me, forgive me for needing you. Forgive me, forgive me for keeping you. Repeats. Forgive me, forgive me for needing you. Forgive me, forgive me for keeping you. And then the outro, simplified. Forgive me, really quiet pianissimo. Forgive me, and then the final line of text right here at the end. For letting you go. And then it fades out. So I intentionally repeated the opening over and over and over again to drive the point home. And in the same way, I took that last text, letting you go, and I moved that to the very end. In fact, we only hear it once. So by contrast, we hear the opening of the letter, my darling Lucy, 8 times maybe. And then by the time we hear the second part, forgive me, forgive me, forgive me for needing you, for keeping you. Forgive me for needing you, for keeping you. And finally, forgive me for letting you go. And she finally has that acceptance and she lets her go. The other thing to look at in this piece is focusing on the constant quarter note pulse. Even though it's simple, the constant quarter notes are a bit foreboding. They're kind of foreshadowing what's happening. There's this constant driving force pushing us forward into this song. And it's only juxtaposed with a triplet in the right hand. So you have 3 against 2. Triplet, triplet. So you've got this instability between the right hand playing triplets and the left hand playing eighth notes, or playing quarter notes rather. So you have triplet quarter notes in the right hand and quarter notes in the left hand. And this 2 against 3, this duple against triple, really portrays the instability in Isabel's mind as she's contemplating committing suicide, and she's thinking about her life in retrospect and this big mistake that she made. Of course, I use the minor scale. I use B minor. I use the natural form here. And that minor also adds to her instability in the fact that she's about to commit suicide. one of the things to think about when you're writing a song like this that's simple and you want to write something that is very somber, the range is super important. In fact, if you put the same chord, the same melody in a different range, it will not sound the same. In fact, if you lower it an octave or 2 octaves, it's going to have this weight to it, this heaviness. And it gets muddy down in that octave. I couldn't even imagine what it would sound like an octave lower than that. I mean, it's almost intelligible down there. You can't even hear what's going on. And in the same way, if we go back up an octave above where it was written, it's actually quite nice. But up that octave, it's a little bit too thin for what I was going for. And in this octave, it's really delicate. In fact, if you were going to have a soprano sing up this high, it wouldn't actually be that delicate, because in order to reach those notes, she'd really have to stretch for them. She'd have to reach for them. So this really would only be effective on an instrument like a keyboard, where you can play pianissimo. But if it was on the piano, it would be quite nice. Now, of course, 1 octave higher than that is going to exacerbate the problem and push it up, where it's going to be out of the vocal range. But on a keyboard, it could be effective if you want that high octave, or the 7 octave 7 and 8 up there. That could be really effective if that's something that you're looking for in the piece. I chose to put it smack dab in the middle, which is something I don't often do, but I find that if you put something right in the middle, especially when the rest of the opera has been chaotic, you've had something in the low end for most of the time, and you've had something in the high end, to just focus right in the middle. Can be awe-inspiring. It can bring tears to one's eyes, and that is the effect that happened when I heard it for the first time, in fact. So something to think about when you're writing for music is, which octave do you want to place it in? The keyboard is such a nice instrument to use for this, because you can clearly see the octave delineations. On a guitar, it's not so easy, because there's multiple notes folded around in the fretboard, and of course with most other instruments you only have about 1.5 octaves to 3 octaves of a range, so you can't get a full 7 octaves to play around. So if you've got a keyboard or a piano at home, feel free to write your song at the piano, looking at the range that you want to write. And in fact, you can try the same song, the same melody. You can try it up an octave, you can try it down an octave, and see what happens. In fact, you might end up liking it better than what where you initially placed it. In fact, I oftentimes, when I see students coming in writing in the middle of the octave, writing in the middle of the piano, I tell them not to do that. In fact, I tell them to go up an octave or down an octave. But in this rare instance, I'm breaking my own rule, because I think that it's super effective to have this exact pitch, this exact range. And it wouldn't be the same down here. And it wouldn't be the same up here. I do like it an octave higher, but it wouldn't be the same song. So ultimately, when you're writing your song, don't just think about the chords and the dynamics and the melody, but think about which register that you want each particular note in. I hope this has been super helpful for you. Thank you so much for watching, and feel free to go on to the next video as soon as you've put this into practice this week. Have fun with it.